So what I heard, Michelle, was a prayer and in pots. Like you still got to
Prayer.
pray. You still,
Thoughts and prayers.
There you
Pots
go.
and prayers for Michelle.
hello, good plant people. This is Mario. This is the Plant Nerd podcast, and I'm with some Plant Nerd royalty. We have the queen of the perennial garden, Kata. Thank you so much for gracing. Michelle, the millennial maven herself, and Devin.
Oh, she's stealing my thunder.
Princess.
I think I should be princess for this episode, but
The princess
You can be
herself.
the-
Pass it around.
Princess, the garden and chickens princess. And Devin, the Don of North Florida, the Duke himself. Welcome, Plant Nerd royalty. Welcome. This is our last meeting of 23. So we need to know what's going on right now. We're going to get into a lot of fun stuff today. So what's burning on everybody's mind, the question that everybody's asking, is it too late for bulbs? Is it too late for these seasonal bulbs? Michelle, what's going on?
yeah, that's what's going on with me is that I just found this in the garage. We were cleaning out the garage, which is what you can do on winter break when you have time. And I was like, oh no, I don't even know how I lost it because it's bright, bright green. So obviously I'm still going to plant it, and I've planted bulbs late in the past, but I don't know. Have you guys planted bulbs late? How, any tips for storing, for planting?
I feel like it's totally okay to plant late. It depends so much on the type of bulb if they're gonna flower really nicely. But what did you say it was, Narcissus?
Tulips, I
No,
think.
I wish they were narcissus. They're just like a tulip pack. So, yeah,
So this is where maybe you don't get as many flowers.
maybe.
I think the tulips need really a nice vernalization, and that's really all what it's about to plant at the correct time is that they get enough chill phase. And now you are in Georgia, it could be.
Yeah.
But I'm always like, just do it anyway. Like, who
Yeah,
cares?
I mean, it'll still come up. It may not be the most stunning bloom because it hasn't had time to get its roots set, but it'll still come up. I
Do
mean,
you
come
think
on.
I'll
My
get those?
As long as
biggest
the bulbs
advice
aren't
is
mushy, make sure
do
they're firm.
do pots because if you
Yeah.
put them in a
Good.
pot, they will, if we do have a cold freeze, they will actually get much more chilling than in the ground. And then next year, you can just put them at the right time in November into the ground. But yeah, so that
Yeah.
was like when you texted me about it, I was like, yeah, I've heard that so often that if you are late with bulbs, it is preferred to do them in pots so you make them chill more. That's also like other plants that really need a lot of vernalization to get like nice and rich. They do like pots more, like hostas even in the south. It's really recommended to grow them in pots or
That's
containers.
awesome.
Yeah,
Containers.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
not just an ugly.
So what I
Bulbs don't
heard,
grow down
Michelle,
here.
was a prayer and in pots. Like you still got to
Prayer.
pray. You still,
Thoughts and prayers.
There you
Pots
go.
and prayers for Michelle.
awesome. So, Devin, you had a lot going on down in North Florida. What's going on with you?
So we got. I've been out of town. I was up in Atlanta for Christmas, so I was up there for like 2 weeks. And my roommate, he's out of town. He's up in Charlotte, so no one was here. So we moved all the tropical plants out of the garage into the front yard because it's been nice. But now it's going to get cold tonight, so I got to put some grow lights up in the garage and then blow out all the leaves and move the plants back in for the cold. So got to do that, and then I'm gonna across the street from like my house where there's a little bit of woods where the hurricane knocked a bunch of trees down. I got a clear spot, so I'm gonna clear out the bottom and then plant some pecan trees. So I'm excited
Why
to get some of
pecans?
that.
Whoa.
I've always wanted to grow pecans. It's just ever since I was a little kid. So, and at my parents' house, I planted one and never got pecans because I was like probably 5 or 6 years old when I planted it, and I didn't realize you needed two to cross pollinate. So now I got two different varieties that are going to cross pollinate. They flower at the same time. So in like 7 years, maybe I'll have some pecans.
In 7 years, we get limoncello and a pecan pie from Devin.
There we go.
Exactly.
So
I also love how you pronounce pecan.
pecans,
Can.
pecans.
It's one of
Yes.
those words like everybody pronounces differently. And as somebody who didn't grow up in the US, I'm like, what is it now? Like, what's the right word?
So
Depends if
Devin,
you're in the now in the north or the south.
I'm gonna press you. What variety of pecans you're gonna go with?
I got Elliot and I got a Pawnee.
Awesome.
Millions.
So a
But
lot. I
those are
mean,
going to get huge, right? They like the pecans are going to be big old trees.
Yeah, they're
big
gonna be
old
big
trees.
trees. They're gonna be along the woods, like across the street. We have a little gravel
Oh, that's
road in front of all the
perfect.
houses, so it'll be at the front over there, and then I'll just clear out all the underbrush, and I'm gonna get some pine straw from a local vendor here and see if it's quality pine straw for us. So do a little.
I feel like I know nothing about pecans. Can you, like, are they native here?
To the southeast, they are. I mean, it's a one of the biggest cash crops for the state of Georgia.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of them get exported over to China, which is ironic. But
Really?
that the Chinese are the number one consumer of pecans out of Georgia.
See, this holiday season, I'm like, I love gardening, and of course, but like, I feel like I'm definitely a person who has tons of hobbies. And when I have like time off, I'm so much like, I don't want to do anything with plants. I don't want to garden. I want to do like baking and whatnot. And so, like, a lot of my traditional Austrian recipes always call for hazelnuts. And it's so hard to find hazelnuts here to like a reasonable price. And I really realized that pecans are so perfect to just substitute. Like, it has a similar flavor. It works like the substance, if you grind it down, is similar. So, yeah, sorry.
I love
Like,
them. They're
side story of
so good.
baking life of Kata. But pecans are like definitely became my favorite to
Yeah,
bake with.
they're amazing. So I mean, I love driving down here from Atlanta to South Georgia. When you get through like the Cordele area, it is just nothing but pecan orchards everywhere. It's so pretty down there when you're driving through the pecan orchards.
So I got a pecan story for you. In college, I lived underneath a pecan tree. Um, not, I mean, it was in a house, but I lived.
In college,
Um,
Mario didn't have any
I
money
might have slept outside once or twice. Um,
due to other
but
costs.
so my neighbor, Miss Mathis, old lady, kind of hunched over, would come and have her little one of those tools that they would like basically roll, and it would pick up, it would gather all the
Yeah.
pecans. So she didn't have to bend over. So she would dump her little tool into her little plastic bag. Anyway, she was so nice to us. She would make pecan pies and bring us a pie because she would come and collect our pecans, and they
Aw.
make pecans for us, pecan pie. So I always love Ms. Mathis for that. And then at the food forest, the other pecan story is that it was just a magical place. The food forest had these 4 pecans, and it still was so basically like 100 years ago, this was an active farm, and they had a pecan orchard. And a lot of times we'd be taking people to the food forest, and the gathering area was underneath this 4 big giant pecans that had this beautiful canopy, set some picnic tables, and literally people would come out there and they would say, well, I don't really see your food forest. I don't see where people can really eat. Like, and they would be standing under the pecan trees, literally hundreds of pounds of pecans all over the floor of the forest. And it was really kind of one of those trees that people really has to wake up to because they're all over Atlanta. They're all
Hmm.
over the
Oh
South,
yeah.
and they produce literally one tree can produce hundreds of pounds of fruit. So there's just so many opportunities for people to learn about a food producing landscape through just a simple tree like a pecan tree.
Well, and it's
And
with those old pecan trees, what's really cool is like they can go years without being fertilized properly. But if you just start fertilizing them properly again, especially a big old one, they will start producing just like when they were younger. I mean, and you have a
Oh,
mature
cool.
tree there.
what
So,
what would be your fertilization regimen for a pecan?
I mean, I've got to, from what I've heard, which was from good old Walter Reeves, old fashioned, they love 10 10 10. I'm not the biggest 10 10 10 proponent, but it just burns. It's really, it's a very harsh fertilizer, so it's not my favorite. But I mean, if you just give them 10 10 10, I can't remember the exact how many cups per circumference around the tree, but I do know he's talked about it on his show before that you can revitalize those old pecan trees, and they're resilient trees. They're tough. So I think that's
So
pretty
we'll
Yeah.
cool.
just get together again in the retirement home, when we're
Yeah.
80, asking Devin how the fertilizing of his
How'd your trees
There we
go?
go.
Yeah. Also, when you bring up, now I want to say Walter's garden, but Georgia Gardner, what was his name? Walter?
Walter
Walter
Reeves.
Reeves.
Walter
Reeves.
Reeves. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
my childhood. That was
Oh,
like
I
my
know. I used
weekend.
to love listening to Walter
Me
Reeves.
too.
Oh God, I
Yeah.
don't know at all what you're
That's in
talking about.
Atlanta.
I'm
Like,
gonna look it up.
He's a staple.
We need to see if we can get him on as a guest.
Yes, he asked me. I was on a guest on his show once.
so he
So
owes you, is what you're
yeah,
saying.
that's right.
You need
That's right. Return the favor, owes me. Yeah,
Yeah,
either
or
way.
maybe we can just head over. Yeah, yeah, that would be so cool.
I got a bunch of his books.
Yeah, I think he lives nearby. That's what I was gonna
Yeah,
say,
he
but I'm
does.
not
He
to be
lives in
creepy. Like so.
Yeah,
Wait, so
he's in
what's his
Decatur.
name again? Can you repeat?
Walter Reeves. He's had a radio show on WSB forever.
Yeah, he hung it up, but
Recently
he
he moved.
still does his his blogging
Blog.
and social media stuff.
That's cool.
It'll be on the new show with Ashley Frasca from time, every once in a while.
All right. So we're going to put some from Plant Nerd AI came up with a couple of things to fertilize and help with it. We'll put that in the show notes. All right. Kata, it is your turn. What is going on? Let us know.
Like I just mentioned, I'm just a person, once I have like a week off, I do love doing everything else. I hosted some dinners. I had some really, really sweet horticulture friends over last night. And one of them brought me, I just want to show you really quick, but this beautiful bouquet of Magnolia. She has a Magnolia farm. I've worked there a couple of times. It's called Western Farms. But I just feel like Magnolia, they're like, I think there's a big debate if they're native here or not. I think they are. But they're just such awesome trees to have in your garden, or even, go around and just make really quick. Like you snap some branches and you have like this amazing bouquet. I just was really in love with it. She does also do those cute like flowers with it. It's a clip on, but it's because obviously it wouldn't flower right now. So
Yeah.
it looks so real.
Yeah.
Like
It does.
usually
I was
you go
wondering
into
why
the-
it's
What?
flowering. I was wondering why
Yeah.
it's blooming.
No, it's awesome. Like you just clip it on, and like even if you're super close by and even touch it, I feel like even the touch is so real. Like I don't know how she did that, but it is absolutely amazing. So yeah, I don't know. I just had a really good time over the last week, eating way too much, but also I will say working out. Like you should.
Oh, that's good.
But having good conversations, good wine, and talks about plants. And I just dropped this. Cool. Anyway.
Aren't magnolias like the oldest flowering tree known to something?
Yeah.
Like, so they're native everywhere-ish.
Yeah, so I think it is the most basic flower too, and then the pole opposite is actually an orchid. So orchids are the newest developed flowers in the world. But I think like if you just go out in the woods and would cut some, I just don't think you get like this nice backside. So this is one called, I think, Parish or something.
K Paris.
K Paris, yeah, thank you.
Yep.
So I do think it's like really worth it to get like a really nice magnolia tree. There's also one called Teddy Bear.
Yep, I was gonna say that is one of my favorite magnolias.
I love that one too. It's
They
just
have
that
really
the leaves
big,
is more
fat
round
Yeah, they're rounded leaves. They're fatter. They're really
and
dark.
really dark.
Yeah, that has a much lighter brown underneath, and the contrast
Yeah.
between the really dark brown and the darker green on the teddy bear is
I
one of
feel
my
like
favorite.
this one is just a little bit more delicate for
Mhm.
if you use it for a bouquet or something inside. I
Yeah.
also really love it when it actually dries up. It becomes this like olive green
Mhm.
nearly. And I don't mind reusing it at all. Like we had some that have been like around for a couple of years. So anyway, this is my little what's growing on story because that's literally as much as I did with plants this week was getting a nice bouquet gifted.
Yeah.
Other
Before we move on,
random. I was gonna say other little random magnolia tidbit. There's a new magnolia out called Baby Grand that's actually even smaller than teddy bear. It only gets about 6 to 8 feet tall and about 4 to 5 feet wide. So if you want a magnolia in a small spot, if you can find Baby Grand, it's an awesome one. I have one planted here in my front yard when I moved in, and man, that thing is beautiful. It looks a lot like a teddy bear, but doesn't
Does
get as
it
Does
big.
leaf
it have
drop?
like nice
Well,
flowers? Sorry.
What was that?
I'm like the Debbie Downer of this like amazing conversation. Does it leaf drop all year long?
It's not big enough, so the leaf drop is just kind of underneath it. So it's not
Okay.
huge yet. It was only a 7 gallon when I planted it, but it's not really that bad yet.
It's not
So
as
we'll see when it
okay.
gets bigger. But it's since it's only going to be 5 feet wide and like, 8
Oh
feet
yeah, it
tall, it's going to
doesn't like
be
you could
out of
still plant
control.
around it and stuff
Yeah.
because I feel like
And they
sometimes
may fall, but you won't have to pick it up. Yeah, not like a little gem or anything like that. So,
Yeah, I kind of didn't know anything about Magnolia. And then a couple of years ago, my friend Erin just asked me if I could come help out at her Magnolia farm. If you look on my Instagram, you see like a couple of posts from a couple of weeks ago. But I just love it out there. It's so magical. She has this farm full of Magnolia. It looks so beautiful. And you just stand there and clip Magnolia. And like it is the most peaceful work for me.
where's it
And
at?
she's such a fantastic artist. Like if you check out her website, the
yeah,
wreaths she makes, it is so,
that's so
so, so
cool.
beautiful.
I love a magnolia wreath. They're awesome.
Same. It's and hers like they are just you don't find anything like it anywhere in the South. Like I've worked at the farmers market and there's tons of people selling magnolia wreaths and they're pretty, but like hers, she just really has an eye for how to like arrange it and everything. So
That's awesome.
yeah, I didn't know anything about magnolias, and now I feel like that's my new favorite tree that I will dearly, dearly miss in Austria because I don't think they survive there.
Mm-mm, too
But
cold.
yeah, we'll see.
Um,
Maybe climate change could be a positive for me.
Oh no.
It's like magnolias, osmanthus, and camellias. I'm like, those are the three things I will miss so much, and they're not even perennials.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Those are all great plants.
They're amazing. Yeah.
I have a variegated teal in my woods and I love it. It's so pretty.
So amazing.
I do love to.
I'm actually tea olives and camellias. I'm the most positive that I could make it work if you find the right microclimate in a
Hmm.
garden,
Yeah.
south side of the house, like really close by. If you like get a winter where it's not too cold so they get established nicely, maybe I can make it. My dad did plant a magnolia tree in my future garden, so
There you
we'll
go.
see.
I mean, what zone is it over there?
See, we don't do sounds. The
So how
biggest
cold does it
issue,
get in the winter?
so it gets about as cold as it also gets in Raleigh. It is so much more wet. And we have so many late freezes. So like when people talk here about a late freeze, I'm like, LOL, haha. Like you don't know what it means to have a late freeze. Like we'll be like really nice and springtime and then it will rain and the next day boom, it's like in the 20s. And that will happen 2, 3, 4, 5 times a year and every year. So I'm like, that is what always kills it.
If you could get a magnolia cutting over there, I bet you that you could probably grow a magnolia.
Well, I mean, my dad just planted one, so
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
he
I mean,
did.
I would
He did
think
put like he like tried to like make
like a
this
greenhouse.
like cage around it and like put stuff in it so like to protect it. It was really funny. He
Yeah,
was
but I
all
mean, I would think
That's
that, I mean,
adorable.
they can take a little bit of cold. We shipped some up to Canada one time. I shipped a whole tractor trailer full of magnolias to Canada, so.
well. I mean, Canada has a lot of different zones, though.
Yeah, I know, I know. It was down in over towards Portland, but
Yeah,
all right, good. All right, good plant people. We're moving on to our next segment.
shut it now.
Yeah, I should,
we're talking
Next,
too much about
yeah,
plants.
bring it back. Bring it back in this magnolia world. So we're going to talk about New Year's resolutions. We got 24 coming up, and I want to hear what you are committing to. And this is going to be on the air. This is everybody. Peer pressure is going to. We're going to do a flashback to this episode to see if you're, maybe a check in at 6 months. This is kind of like me saying I'm going to lose a bunch of weight and not happening. But let's just go with what is
don't
your New
worry,
Year's
we'll check
resolution?
on that too, Mario.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're going to have your
So that's
6-month
mine.
plan.
Kata,
Okay.
what is the what is the New Year's resolution for 24?
Well, as we know, I'm moving to Austria, and I'm moving into the house that I grew up in, my childhood home. And my dad is actually a quite well-known nurseryman in Austria, Europe. And most people think that if he's such a famous, nursery person, he must have an amazing garden. Well, as it so happens, I feel like most people who work in horticulture actually don't have really nice home gardens because they don't have time for it. That's kind of true for my dad as well. It has a really good structure, and there's so many great trees in there, and like the bones are really good, but definitely did not have time in the last couple of years to really maintain it. So my big New Year's resolution is to really like transform this garden. I definitely was also thinking about maybe recording it a little bit, like, showing how you can work with an old garden and make it something new. I do have like a very firm deadline of when it has to also look good. So like it was a little funny you said 6 months, because we have like a big wedding coming up where tons of our friends come, tons of like industry peers. And I feel like I do have like this pride where I want people to think I have a nice garden. So the reality is, it is my New Year's resolution that I will put my partner to work to do that. Because he doesn't have a visa yet for Austria, and I'm making it this big thing.
Oh my gosh.
But of course, I will help him a lot. So
course.
the big solution is to help my husband to make this garden up. But yeah, no, I'm just excited to garden in a climate that I'm used to and a space that is like forever,
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a legacy garden that it's the passing of the torch, right? I mean, it's a pretty cool moment for you guys. All right. 24. Let's go to Devin. What is going on in 24? What is the resolution that we get to
So I got two. One, my first one is to stay on top of weeding. So that's what I'm going to start doing tomorrow. So hopefully I can at least have the front yard weeded before 2024. But yeah, so I'm going to stay on top of weeding, and then I also want to learn and get better at composting.
Composting.
I stay on top of composting all the food.
Is any form of compost? Is this worm? Is this like household
like just leftover from like leaf debris, yard debris, and food like vegetable.
There's so many different products out there to help you with this. Are you going to go with a DIY approach, or are you going to go more product? You're researching products.
Well, I mean, I've got 3 rollers out there, which I actually like because it contains it and makes rolling, turning your compost a lot easier. But I just don't know if I need to put more holes on the side of it to get it some more ventilation, because it's not breaking down just how I want it in there. So I don't know. It's going to be a learning project for me. So
I always found sunlight is a missing ingredient for a lot of folks that do the barrels and a lot of home compost. So
yeah,
make sure you get some.
And my placement's pretty good. I mean, it's right at the edge of the woods, so it gets sun from like sun up till like 3 o'clock, and then it's in the shade. So I don't know if it needs that super intense afternoon sun, but it does get hot in there. I'm gonna figure it out.
Let's see some of that dirt gold. All right.
Yes.
Michelle, 24. What are you gonna accomplish in 24?
Okay, I will not be committing to 2 things on air here. Devin, way to go for you. I am going to try to give my roses their best shot of happiness in the Southeast. So every year when the roses first flush out and they're all budded out and blooming, I'm like, I'm going to spray these every 2 weeks. I'm going to alternate copper and neem oil, and I'm going to take care of them. And then it lasts for like maybe a month and a half. And then when the heat sets in, I'm like, I'm done. And the roses all struggle. So this year I'm going to see if I can have nice looking roses, or at least roses that keep the majority of their leaves. That's the goal. Just keep your leaves this year.
So what are we talking, like 50% of the leaves, 70?
I don't know. We don't need to put a number to this. I have enough smart goals at work, guys.
There we go.
I just think it's hilarious and like really great that you are sitting here with your crown, the princess of the South, and you're
I
like
know.
talking about roses. Because when I think about roses, I always think about British royals, like
Exactly.
British royal rose gardens, and I'm like, way to go, Michelle, you got this.
We're gonna have the Royal Rose Garden of
I'll
2024.
I'll
Yes.
hand you the queen title right there if you got it.
We'll
You
see.
deserve
We'll see at the check-in. A 6-month check-in will be about the time where normally I'm done. So we'll
it.
see.
Well, okay.
Okay.
So I got bit by the rose bug a couple years ago, and I was all into roses. Like I wanted all the cool varieties and do all this stuff. And the only way I have been able to be successful with roses is make sure they have enough sun and then spray them every 2 weeks with, I know it's not organic, so don't kill me, but it works the best, Rose Shield. It is
Rose
the
Shield.
best. You spray it once every 2 weeks. It does insect and fungicide. They do make a drench if you want to do a drench. I just find the spray works better with the funguses because I don't really believe in systemic fungicides. I don't see how they work. But yeah, so that's if you do that,
All right.
you'll be successful. I've got roses down here in Florida because I was crazy and was like, I'm gonna grow roses in Florida,
Yeah.
and they did not look super pretty. But it was also the
Mario's
first.
just shaking his head.
It was the first year. Usually they got to be there for 2 or 3 years before they look really, really good. But
All
Rose
right.
Shield every 2 weeks, you will be good. Oh,
All
and
right.
one other thing around, and this will be helpful for your check-in, but around July 4th, whack your roses
Cut him
back in
back.
half. Whack them back.
Just get rid
And
of him.
that just because that time of year they just stretch because it's so hot and they're trying to grow and just
Yeah.
whack them
Yeah.
back so they focus their energy in the middle of the plant. And then you will get the most beautiful fall rose bloom out of all your roses.
Okay.
So
All right.
there's you
The
some rose
Royal
tips.
Rose Garden of 2024 is in the works.
Well, we covered a lot of ground today, people. This was awesome. So, for the soon to be queen of the Rose Garden, Michelle, for Kata, the legacy continues in Austria. I just can't wait to see what you do with that. It's really special. And Devin, let your compost that gold, let it shine this year. 24 is going to be a great year for us to keep going and growing. So thanks everybody from the Plant Nerd family. This has been a great
Wait,
first year.
stop. What
Hey.
is yours?
Yes.
Oh,
I'm like, you are holding us accountable in 6 months, and then you will be like, oh, great. And you just make up something. No, no, no. We're not done yet. Mario, what's your resolution?
I'm gonna like what Devin says, just like kind of hack it back. I plan on okay. So for my home garden, I'm gonna do a lot more camellias. I'm gonna do a Camellia Ali, and so I'm about halfway there. And these are camellias that I'm taking all the orphans from Surfscape, people that like I don't want this plant. I thought I wanted it. I didn't want it. It is my orphanage of plants, and I'm going to sort of make this assembly shine in some way or fashion. But every once in a while, somebody's like, I just don't want that camellia, and it's perfectly fine. I take it home, I nurture, I care for it, and so I'm creating this Camellia Ali on the side of the house. It's on the north side of the house, and it's blooming fantastic right now. But I only have one side done. So I'm actually going to make double rows going all the way down in a nice triangular pattern. The walkway right in the middle is a kind of a chip slate. And so again, I'm only halfway there, but I am committing to my Camellia LE and losing a few LBs myself. So there we have it. Everybody's got their thing. Check in on 4th of July. For the Plant Nerd family, I am Mario. Michelle, Kata, Devin, we will see you in 2024. Keep going and growing, everybody.
Cheers.
Happy New Year.